But with that, let's get to the reason we're here tonight. I'm super excited to host Hiten Shah. He's spoken here several times, but it's been a while since it's been in person because of COVID. So last time he spoke was like 2 years ago on Zoom. So I'm super excited to close out our year here with Hiten. He is basically going to talk to us about reality versus hype on how AI is changing product work in 2026 and beyond. He's currently the CEO of Crazy Egg. I'm sure a lot of you heard of Crazy Egg. It's a company he used to run before. Most recently, he was the founder of Nira, and they got acquired by Dropbox, so he spent some time there. And then you may have also heard about KissMetrics back in the day. It was a leading metrics company. He's OG lean startup product guy. I always love hearing it. And what I love about Hiten is he always gives you the straight talk. So if you're like, I'm tired of all this hype about AI, what's really going on? You're about to hear from Hiten. So please join and give me him a warm welcome here. Thanks.
There, look at that. Oh my gosh, that's that's hilarious, man. You know what year that's from? 07, 08?
I don't know.
That's what.
I think it was a startup.
Startup. Right. Oh man, those are the good old days.
And I actually think James Cham took the picture.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But I don't remember when. So yeah, that's when you didn't need those glasses, right?
I know, I didn't need that.
And mine were a little weirder. Anyway, so you can probably tell I have a lisp of some kind. So it's because of these. These are really awesome. They hurt. Food sticks in my teeth. I was able to eat the pizza, though. I don't think there's any food in the pizza, from the pizza. But like, the reason I'm showing this is I got this like, I think almost 6 weeks ago or so. And the coolest thing about it, they say they use AI, but they take a mold of your mouth, obviously, and then basically they design it in such a way where you'll notice each bracket goes to a single tooth. If you're familiar with normal braces, it's like one wire and it's on the outside, right? So what they do is the teeth move individually. And like I said, they said they use AI. I have no idea. And I'm supposed to talk about AI, so here's some AI. But like, you can also feel the teeth move. And then when they do an adjustment, it kind of hurts for a while because the teeth are moving. You're probably wondering, why did I get them? I'm like 44, almost 45, and like braces. So let me explain. So basically, I have a crooked tooth on the bottom. My other teeth are a little crooked too, but that one's the main one. There's no cosmetic thing. And I would cut my lip, like the inner lip, like a couple times a year. I'm eating a salad, it's like really oily or whatever, and boom, it slips, and that tooth was the culprit. And so through that process, because this has been happening for some years, I learned about hydrogen peroxide. And one thing I learned, which many of you probably don't know, is, and I had to tell the dentist too, because they didn't know, but if you get a cut in your mouth and you use hydrogen peroxide, you only want to use it once. Of course, you dilute it and you use it, you rinse, because it kills the good stuff and it kills the bad stuff. So that's my story about hydrogen peroxide. My other favorite product is these hickeys. Anyone familiar with these? So it's like, I never learned how to tie my shoelaces. So my shoes have hickeys. And we're supposed to talk about products. So if you're wondering, what the hell is this guy talking about? I'm talking about products, right? This one. Oh, this is, I posted about this. People liked it, and a lot of people, I was surprised, knew about this book. So, okay. So this book is a childhood book I had. And it's called The Way Things Work. And as a result of this book, well, one, I didn't realize how much it shaped me, but it's probably the single book that shaped me more than anything else, especially looking back. So because of the book, I'll blame the book for this. My dad would probably blame me. I know what the inside of a CRT TV looks like. I'll leave it at that. Okay, so I believe that if you're working, but let's say in particular working on products and building them, you have to know yourself. And if you know yourself, you kind of really know everything about your reactions or why you build a certain way or all kinds of things, right? So I'm an Enneagram type 9. Anyone familiar with Enneagram? I know it's become a little more popular recently. Okay, I see a bunch of people saying yeah. So I'm the peacemaker. And what that means is I'm accepting, trusting, and stable. My friends tell me I'm stable. I don't know about the other two. Creative, optimistic, and supportive. Sure, great. And then I bring people together and heal conflicts. All right, awesome, cool. So that's a type 9. This one, anyone know human design in here? Okay, awesome. So human design is a little bit more on the woo-woo side. You put in your birth date, your exact birth time, if you know it, and where you were born, the city. And it tells you all this stuff. And even shows you this like graph of your body and your open centers and all kinds of stuff, okay? And yeah, it's woo-woo, whatever, like who knows how they got it, and you can go research all that. I actually don't care about any of that. Just like Enneagram or any of these frameworks, it's just data. Like, cool, I don't care how they got it. If it resonates, great. If it doesn't, great, right? This one resonates. So I'm the investigator martyr. But what that really means is I have an insatiable desire for knowledge and understanding. This is very true. I mean, the book from earlier, right? And this often leads to diverse paths filled with practical experiences. I told you about a few, my braces, the hydrogen peroxide, the hickeys, these are all experiences. And then we embrace trial and error, and we're not afraid to take risks. Yeah, I got in a lot of trouble as a kid, like a lot of trouble. Like I have to apologize to my dad almost every time I talk to him, kind of trouble. But I definitely will take the risk, poke the bears, do whatever, right? On that note, one of my other favorite products is the Valentine One. Anyone familiar? Yeah, okay, I see some people. And the reason I put both up, this is not my car, I have both. Because they're in all our cars. Because I can't drive alone without it, because I drive it like I stole it when I'm driving alone. Okay. So the talk is really about this. It's about the route that I tend to take on almost everything, which is either truth or consequences, usually consequences. And I'm not here to talk about product. I'm here to talk about innovation, because I think all product is innovation. And I don't just mean like product innovation. It could be, business model, whatever. Like it's innovation and it's all product, but it's all innovation. And if you like look at my personality type, you look at kind of my background, this is what I figured out about myself. This took me quite a while, but not too long ago, maybe a few years ago, I was like, oh, this is my problem. My problem is when I want to build something, I want to make it new, different, and right. I added right because if it's not right, then it doesn't matter that you built it, and it's not innovative usually. So the reason I wanted to share this part of the story, again, I'm supposed to talk about AI. We haven't talked about AI yet, right? I don't know if we will talk about AI, to be honest, is because one, I like I said earlier, like if you know yourself, you're going to know how you build, what you build, why you build the way you do. So when I need to build something that doesn't hit this, I used to get really irritated, pissed off, like I don't want to compete with them. I don't want to copy them. Like these things used to come through my head and I didn't know why. And then when I started digging into myself, looking at the things I built and all that, I'm like, oh yeah. I just gravitate towards this. So if we're in a market or an opportunity where it's not this, someone else should do it, not me. Or I need to go change something about how I'm thinking about it to do that. Okay, now the fun part. I would love if you folks skim this. This is from 7 or 8 years ago. And if anyone thinks anything has changed, please let me know. But I'll give you like 30 seconds. This is totally worth it. And this is from like talking to these 51 PMs, et cetera. I probably shared it the last time I was here, one of the times, but it was quite a while ago. So is there anything here? Anyone going to call me out on anything here? Okay, I'm going to take that as a no. Going once, twice. Dan, looks good. 7 to 8 years ago, before AI. I just love putting this up because people need to understand this. It's not a strategy. A lot of people think it is. It's a result. More importantly, I think I'm here to help you hit this button on results. Maybe, maybe not. I'm not trying to set that bar, but let's see. Someone call me out on that if I don't, or at least a little bit easier. Okay, so I work with a friend of mine. I'm helping him build a product. I talk to him once a week. This is what he said about me. You know, yeah, this is the granola. So what granola does is he has granola on. I don't, but they did a year-end review, and I talked to him enough where it basically said most likely to tell you your great idea is actually a distraction. And I feel like that's what most of my job has turned into in almost any room I'm in or any meeting I'm in, because I almost gravitate towards what's the right thing to do. I'm not the best at like asking the question. I know some people like to ask the question. I'll just say the answer, but I'm working on it. But this is exactly what I think is probably one of the most important things right now in product, which is don't get distracted. But that means you have to know a lot about a lot to make sure you don't get distracted. Okay, on that note, some years ago, decided I wanted to do this. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to figure out how to make lavash pizza. And it's not cooking. I wouldn't call this cooking, but it is product work. So what I did is you take this, lavash bread, put the sauce, put the thing I love, spicy food, so the jalapenos, whatever. And this was some special kind of cheese. Usually I would use the normal shredded. And my family, for about a 3 to 4 day period, only ate lavash pizza. But why? Because the iteration cycles you can go through is incredible. Like, I can make something in 5 to 10 minutes, give it to someone, hear what they think, and make the next one better. It's amazing. So this taught me more about product and honestly what we need to do in AI today than anything else. Because if you can speed up the feedback loop, you can grow the thing, whatever the thing is, and build better product, better whatever. All right, so I think Dan mentioned Crazy Egg before. I kind of wanted to tell the story about it that I don't often get to tell. Basically, we were the first company to build heat maps. Heat maps are, the value prop here is show me my heat map, which is like, see where people click. So, but we didn't start with the heat map. What we started with was, it was kind of funny. We went into the analytics tools at the time. This was 2005. And the tools had a site overlay. That site overlay showed you where people were clicking. But there was a massive problem. Web analytics was based on log file data. It was not based on clicks. So if you had a pricing link at the top and a pricing link at the bottom, and the top one was 15 clicks and the bottom one was 5, when you looked at that click map or overlay or whatever they called it, it would show 20 and 20. Because it was just based on, did they get to the next page? Is that linked to the next page? And of course, things like buttons and all that, no clicks. But that's not true. So when we started digging in and looking at analytics, we were like, WTF, like, they're lying. And at that time, anyone remember Ajax? Right. It was like coming out, and we could do this crazy stuff on the in the browser. And so we decided to build a better overlay that was actually accurate. And so we built that first, which is like, little dots on the page, you click and you could get this like box and tells you how many clicks it got and all that kind of stuff. And as we were building that, we realized that we could go even further, and that's when the heat map was actually invented by us. So this is all to say that, like, I believe that if you find something inaccurate or something where people are obviously frustrated, those are the products that you're going to see just grow fast and win. And our job as product people is to find that in whatever we're doing. And I hope to hopefully shed some light on how we can do that. Because with AI, we can do it a lot faster. This is another good one. This one was called Fruitcast. It was a podcast advertising network, and we learned something from Michael Arrington from TechCrunch that we didn't know before, but we spent $45,000 in like 4 or 5 months and built the thing. And what that thing is that how much we were charging was even more than what radio stations were charging. And this was in 2005, 20 years ago. Podcasts were not what they are today, right? So, you know, what I like to say after this is hope is not a strategy, right? And this is what our partner said, who was working on it with us. Another one. Okay, so anyone remember Technoratty? So we just wanted to build a better Technoratty. But there was no problem to solve. Because even Technoratty, it was solving some kind of problem, but wasn't really that painful. So we built this thing called Surf, and it did the same thing Technoratty did. It didn't work out. Anyone remember this? This is not the ugly version, but this is Dave McClure's Pirate Metrics, AARRR. The reason I put this up is we made a few posters. You'll see another one later, but this was actually, I don't think we printed this one, but it was digital. But this was, during that time is actually probably when I met Dan and a bunch of people, including Dave, and this was becoming really popular. This is still relevant. I would still use this if I were all of you, because it is more than relevant maybe, because we need stuff like this to help us define what's going on. But that's also how we started KissMetrics. The first version of it was analytics for Facebook apps. And it was based on Dave McClure's framework, because Dave and a bunch of others were teaching a class at Stanford. One of the reasons he came up with the framework, but it was a class around Facebook apps and stuff like that and building them. Awesome time, lots of cool stuff came out of that. That one didn't work though. So then we built a BI tool. We thought that one was gonna work. And we had TechCrunch analyzing author performance using the tool. Like this author, this many page views, comments, whatever. And we had built that, and it was like very flexible, all that good stuff. Even the app developers liked it. Cool. It failed too. Then we got to funnels. I can claim this invention too, because I couldn't find anything before we built it, which is we built a left to right funnel. Prior to us, believe it or not, no funnel was left to right for analytics. Now every funnel you see is left to right, except maybe a few here and there. We invented it, but the real invention was actually one brilliant day. I was like, we can show data for every step below the step. So this is like the earliest version of it, but if you notice there, you see like a spreadsheet looking thing below it. So actually the invention wasn't just the left to right, it was what that design let us do for marketers, which is I want to see referrers across that funnel and how they performed. I also don't want to have to pre-set up my funnels. So if you notice back here, there's a plus. You can just add the steps. And this is just a full history of all of our kind of pivoting over at KissMetrics. Also, this is a good time to share one of my rants. My rant here is just a clarification. We use the word pivot out there, and we say Slack was a pivot. Slack was not a pivot whatsoever. It was a hop. There's a difference between a pivot and a hop. These were pivots. A hop is basically, I got this new idea, let me go work on it, or let's go work on it, right? They were building a game, they hopped to whatever Slack was. Sure, it might have been an internal tool or something, but it wasn't rooted in learnings. So to me, a pivot is rooted in learnings, a hop is not. And so each of these were rooted in various different learnings that we had. So one thing that's, I think, really instructive is that the timeline of this one was like, I think 3 quarters. Timeline of that one, at least what I laid out there, was about 4 quarters. Timeline of that one was actually, it looks like a year, but like we kept going. That one worked. But what happened is someone got irritated, probably me, and we were just wasting too much time between the pivots and within each one. So that one, that product was built in 30 days back then. So 2009. And it could only let you see the last 10,000 users. We actually invented other things with that product. Like, for example, today, analytics ties data to users, anonymous users, identified users, et cetera, right? We were the first API to do that, like actually do it. So even At one point, I think the Mixpanel founder told me it took him 18 months to rebuild their infrastructure to match what we were doing, because they had just an event property API. We had a person event property. So you always needed to pass people data in our system, or it didn't matter. The main reason is we were targeting marketers, they were targeting developers. So they had to change their infrastructure because this was better. But you could only go back the last 10,000 users on the first version. So our CTO at the time, he's like, hey, I can do this myself. We had another like 7 to 10 people on the team, but I can do this myself, but I need 90 days. Or actually, it was 60 days at the time. So like, oh crap, okay. So it's on hold for 60 days because he has to refactor it because we built it in 30 and we just wanted to figure out if it would work. It was working like crazy. And people loved it. It had 15,000 signups, whatever, all that stuff. So in the meantime, we invented something else. So as far as I could tell, we also invented this. What this is prior to us, websites would have like satisfaction surveys, but they weren't like, they were like big boxes and all this stuff. We're like, well, how do you compress down feedback so people actually give it to you and the opt-in rate's high? So this was the bottom right pop-up now you see. And there's been many generations of this type of product now, but we started it. This was the earliest homepage because it said beta. I don't use beta anymore, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. And this was a newer version. But the point I wanted to highlight on this is it says product managers and marketers stop saying, I wonder why. So when we had this version, we studied what people were saying and who cared. And that's how we got to that statement. The funny thing is, at this time, product analytics or product anything, product, even today, I believe product has no budget. That might be controversial, but I still believe that. So I wouldn't be selling to product teams, but that's a different story. But we tried to sell to product teams and stuff. And then eventually we sold this business because we needed to and we got a good price and all that. But like it turned into Qualaroo. I think it's still out. And then the most popular next generation of it is a company called Sprig, right? But they target product people. Now they do other stuff too. So this is to say that the heat map was timeless. The funnel was timeless. We started it, but now it's everywhere. These pop-up surveys were timeless too, but they were always new, different, and right when we invented them. Oh, this is a good one. This is another failed one. So I met my co-founder and we started building. I didn't want to build products originally. We were just doing a bunch of consulting and stuff. Maybe we were going to do a fund. So we started building this product to help market a fund. And at that time, DocSend and other things existed. But the main problem that we found was that founders had trouble getting feedback on their pitch decks. They still do, I think, but now with AI, it's a little bit easier. So we built this thing, and what it did was every individual person you sent it to could write comments all over it, and every slide had the how does this make you feel type of thing. So you could send it to whoever you wanted. But everyone could not see each other's feedback, because a lot of tools like this, they work a different way, they still do. And this is like the user view where you could see everyone's feedback if you're like the founder and are looking at what people said, and you see the stats on top. Super cool product. I actually still, when I look at the design, I'm like, oh, it could exist today, but whatever. This was like 8 years ago. And then I had the bright idea that I think my co-founder's probably still pissed off at me about, but I was like, hey, we could copy paste that code and build something else. That's literally what I said. So we copy pasted the code. Good idea, bad idea, whatever. And we got to this idea. This idea was called DraftSend. What you were able to do is essentially upload a PDF and record yourself going through it. And we give you a player that looked like a video player. Like when you saw it as a user, you didn't see those slides. You literally got something that looked like YouTube. But the benefit at that time was that it's just less bandwidth. And it was just a cooler way to like make a video of a presentation. This was like Loom was around and things like that were around, but like nothing like this existed. It was actually unbelievably complicated to get the audio and the slides to sync, believe it or not. That took way too long. But that one didn't work either. We shut it down. And the reason we shut it down is we realized that it doesn't solve people's most painful problems with documents. We would have had to pivot it to be a sales tool or some marketing tool or something like that to make any reasonable amount of money. So and it was a top product on Product Hunt at the time on that day. So then we stepped back, and the pattern in my life on building products is sometimes our team will just build stuff, and then someone will get irritated, usually me, and then we'll actually do the right thing. I'm trying to stop that habit, but it happens. So the right thing led to this. What we did is we did 52 interviews with people and asked them what their number one challenge was with documents. And at that time, they said the number one challenge was finding them across tools. So we're like, okay, finding them across tools, cool. So as we were talking to them, the way we do our interviews, which I don't think is a surprise now, is we would ask them the challenge question. They would say the answer of like, oh, finding tools across, or finding documents across tools. And then for every single person, we got at least one story of why or the last time that they experienced that problem. And what we learned is that people don't use a search box to find documents. They literally ask someone, ping in Slack, try to go to the tool. They don't use a search box. They look at the list, all those kinds of things. And we have like detailed notes of all of this stuff. So then we're like, wait, hold on. There's a category called enterprise search. It exists, but yet people still have this problem. What's going on? So we're like, wait, could we build something? And this was before vibe coding or anything that would test the assumption. So we built this in 5 days, literally end to end, where it connected to Google, Dropbox, Slack, Box, and OneDrive, and you typed in a thing, and it would go ping the APIs in real time and produce like a list of what we found. And the list was reverse chronological, all that good stuff. And we wanted to see if people use a search box and actually invalidate or validate whatever our thesis was. Well, it turns out they don't use search boxes. And I know the search box has turned into an AI box now. Maybe we'll get to that, but they still don't use it. So we learned this, and we're like, oh, we could have stopped there, but we didn't. What ended up happening is we figured out how to solve the problem without a search box. The usual new way, old way. The only reason I'm sharing this slide is I wanted to create a category called Document Organization Service because of DOS, but that didn't work out. So here, with this homepage, this is the one that converted the best. If you read it, it says something no one can even say today, which is find your documents in 3 clicks or less. And you're probably wondering, like, how do you do that? Well, I'll tell you. So people love the product, great, cool, awesome. But this is how we did it. We took all those stories, they actually went in my head, and on a Friday, I decided by Monday, I'm going to figure out what our product should be. Because we had the interviews, we had the MVP done, we had enough like inputs. And then I found myself just using products with this purpose, and I went to Facebook. I'm like, well, we know that essentially most of the ways people find documents, it always has something to do with remembering something related to the people around the documents. Who created it, who shared it with me, et cetera. So then, in today's world, these are like jobs to be done or whatever. But basically, the keyword, it's up there. But it's like minor. It's not the main thing we want you to do. Even today, enterprise search products, it's the main thing they want you to do. If you know it was recently modified, you'll get the feed, great. If you know where it lived, you can just click and you'll get a feed just for that app. It looks exactly the same except filtered. If you know the name of the doc, cool. Most people don't know the name of the documents. That's why they don't search them. Or you know how old the document is. And we were very specific to saying age, not created, not any of that. It was age, because that was the word people thought of in reference to this. And then the last one there is, I know who it's shared with, which implies I know who shared it with me sometimes, right? And then the best one, the most fun one that we actually learned the most about was the left side. Those are all the people you collaborate with, just dumped there for you. And there's a search box there too, I know there's 2 search boxes on the page, so product purist, please, sorry. But like I couldn't not do that at that point. But like you could click on any person, and guess what? The feed is filtered by everything you share with that person, or you could even see what they own with another filter. So that's what we built. It opened in a new tab in Chrome. So we took over the homepage. That's also why we built it like this, because if it's a feed and it feels like this, it's very sticky. We had, with the first 500 users, we had a 60% flattening out retention curve. Looked good. After we got like a few thousand and more, it was about 40%. So it still looked good. And we iterated it. You know, we had some people had use cases where I want my Gmail in here for whatever reason, or I'm a freelancer, took care of all that. Then we hit a problem, which I call the auth wall, which is that folks at Stripe tried to use it and IT blocked them because they couldn't sign up with Google and bring all their documents. Rightfully so, I guess. And so then we're like, oh, we want a bottom-up motion. We didn't want to build an enterprise sales team or anything like that. This was self-funded at the time. And so we're like, okay, what do we do? And so what we did is like, we had someone we did an in-person user research session with. It was like a 60-person company. And we went to his office in San Francisco. He put the laptop, opened the new tab, had the product installed already. And then he looks. He's like, did you guys do this? And we're like, what do you mean? We're a read tool. We can't do anything except read your stuff. There was no write scopes. And he's like, well, why does this person have access? I'm like, it's because they have access. Like they actually have access. So he told us that night after work, he was up till like 2 a.m. going in our tool, going to each person, going to each document they have access to, checking them, going into the tools and removing their access. But you're talking like, I don't know, 10 steps for each one, like a ridiculous amount of work. So that was the one aha moment. Second aha moment, this was very fun. I went to do a talk on retention down in LA because I was invited by the Digital Ventures group of Boston Consulting Group, or Digital Ventures arm of them. They worked with all their companies, built stuff, incubated, et cetera. I'm like, if I come talk, great. Can I spend an hour or two with the IT team? Because they see IT at larger companies across everything. So we were demoing this product to them and said, hey, this is enterprise search, blah, blah, blah. You know, how do you get companies to deploy this, blah, blah, blah. And they looked at me and they're like, we don't want to deploy this. We wouldn't deploy this. Like, okay, but like retention, usage, okay. But then they said, they logged into a product. It was Box. And they said, what you do over there, can you do for us over here? Because Box, they were not happy with it. It wasn't doing the job they wanted. They wanted a better user experience for administering the documents from the IT security perspective. Like, yeah, okay, yeah, sure. So we heard them, didn't do anything with it yet. But between those 2 data points resulted in another pivot, which ended up being Nira, where what we did is we took similar technology, but we built this interface where if a company has millions of documents, it's very likely they have hundreds of thousands of public links. They have documents that ex-employees have access to from their personal accounts. They have all these problems that we learned about. But if you map that, it's like the IT people want a better usable tool. And we dug into alternatives to those use cases, and they all had pagination and other things, even today. And then we saw that a relatively small startup founder was worried about document permissioning. So those 2 things kind of connected for us. And we ended up building this. This tool, literally, I don't know another tool that can do this even today, even after we sold it and people know this is possible. It has an infinite scroll. If you have like 20 million documents that you want to manage and 2 million of them have public links, 2 clicks and you can see that, another 2 clicks and you can change all of them. And that still doesn't exist. The way it is done typically is through going through pagination. I'll give you one of these examples and I'll move on. But somebody screen shared with us, an IT person, another product. I won't mention the product. And they found all these public links. And you could do, I think, 50 items at a time. But they had like I I think it was 25,000. So he went through, clicked all 25,000. I watched him do it. I'm like, and then he hits change. One, when you change, he's got like all these options, a different story. And he tries to change it. You know what the product said? Contact support. After all those clicks and all that work, contact support. So, you know, it was blowing our mind that the IT folks who are responsible for these important things got really crappy tools. First of all, they still do, but that's a long story. Someone told me they saw a tool recently that was worse than the one I just described for the same use cases. So, but that's a longer story. And then that company, about 18 months ago, sold it to Dropbox because they wanted it. And I had some fun over there and built a bunch of new product stuff, especially all AI stuff. This had nothing to do with Dropbox, but like this is how org charts work. And I just had to share this. I actually had Gemini make this version of it because the original version doesn't have it's not as clean as this, even though this is not clean either, but it has some words that I'm like, nah, let's just do this. But this is amazing. I learned all about this through my career, so to speak. But the reason I'm putting this up is like, I know what we all deal with even more intimately now. And like, this is crazy. And this is why I think those other products I mentioned and all this stuff is crappy, because it takes so much effort as product people. I know we all know this, to actually build a good product or even ship anything reasonable. And don't even get me started about ZERP. I actually have another one of these sweatshirts from the same artist that says ZERP on it. So I should have worn that one maybe, but this one's more fun. And then this, I always like to share this when I can. This is from Facebook's little red book, I think it's called. You can look it up online. They have more pages. It is an amazing book about their values. But this is the one that I think is more true than ever with AI. And that's why I'm putting this up. Basically, what it says is if we don't create the thing that kills Facebook, someone else will. And if you think about like product and growth and things like that, like this is what you're fighting. You're trying to make sure that you don't get consumed by something else for whatever reason. And today with AI and SaaS, we're seeing a ton of that disruption happening, which again, points to opportunity, but also points to the challenges of building today. Another favorite slide, can't not do it. Product people, this, yeah, okay. Anyway, okay, AI. So, and this is not about AI either, but it's about an AI product. So Gamma is a fairly recent product, and the founder, Grant, talked to Lenny and basically described their process, which is basically team member has an idea in the morning, build a functional prototype, that afternoon test the prototype with 20 real people that know nothing about Gamma, collect rich user feedback by end of the day, iterate on or kill the idea based on the results. This is what we all have to do now. This is the bar. This is the bar. This is the bar. I cannot say that seriously enough. This is why Dan gets excited about prototyping, right? This is the bar. We have to we're all heading here, whether we know it or not. And you know, I wanted to address this objection. Large company, I can't do this. Ramp's a pretty large company, right? Maybe it's not public yet, but they're fairly large. I don't know how many thousands of people they have, but they have a few thousand people. If you look at what he's saying here, number one, 10% of their customers have opted into early access. And you remember that org chart thing? He basically talks about how they cut through the org chart BS. Because they set up a system, so literally any PM can go throw something into early access so they can get data and go from there. I'm sure there's some more rules and stuff around here, around this, but this is awesome. So this is another, we're all heading here too, to deal with that bureaucracy situation if you happen to have that wherever you are. Also, side note, don't say beta, say early access. It's like one of my like whatever things that I can't stop talking about, but basically beta implies buggy. Early access actually means exclusive. Early, you get to shape the product. Beta does not necessarily mean that. So anytime you're doing these kind of things, early access, not beta, or some other terminology that doesn't imply that it's buggy. And this has become very popular. Even like the ramp example had that. I said this a few years ago. All right, now AI, maybe. At least the next two slides are AI. So, I saw this, and this is Andre, and, famous AI person, and not just famous, like very well respected and all that. And he basically said something a few days ago that is exactly how I use LLMs. So what I do is I do basically a version of what he's describing for product work. And some of you may be doing the same, but it's basically like have AI review something as if it's some persona or something like that. And you could do this for almost anything. If you have content and you have an audience you're going after, have it even derive what audience do you think this content is about. Great. Now take that audience, create a few personas of that audience, examples, and have them review my writing. You could even go further and further from there. What is the number one thing they would add? What is the number one thing that they remembered? This works. It works extremely well. And what he's basically describing here is a little bit of a shift where the earlier models required you to tell them what role to take. But some folks have done tests even after this post that said, whether you tell the AI a role, like you should be an expert lawyer, or you don't, it gives you the similar answer now. So you don't need to do that. But these synthetic personas are actually brilliant for it, which is a little bit of a different thing, which is you're not telling it, give me an answer as if you're a lawyer. You're saying, simulate what these personas would think about this thing, which is a little bit of a nuance. But I've been using it for a while, and it's been great. And on that note, I spoke on the How I AI podcast, and here's a link. But also, if you go in the show notes, there's a link to a Google Doc of a bunch of ways that I built projects, some of them for product management, some of them for other things. Now, you all probably recall I started talking about the woo-woo stuff and personality and all that. One of my favorite ones, especially while working at Dropbox, was I knew the Enneagram of my boss. And my boss also, when he came on, he had a manual. His name is Morgan Brown, and he had a manual, like an operating manual that he has written up about himself. So what I did is I took the manual and I took the fact that of his Enneagram type, and I put it in a ChatGPT project, and I basically gave it instructions. And this is in the link down there, and you could do this for yourself. But I also know my personality, and I also know my stuff, so I put that in there. And basically, there was a point where like I hadn't talked to him for a while, but I was working, and I'm really about alignment because of my type 9 Enneagram peacemaker and all that stuff. And I've known him for 20 years, so it wasn't like an issue, but I was like, I haven't talked to him. Are we good? And it basically broke down why we're good. And it made me feel better that I hadn't talked to him, but we're good. Just because I use it for many other things, but that was a very classic example. That's a very me example, which is like, am I good? Am I not good? And he's like, it basically said, if there's no problem, he's not going to talk to you as long as you're getting your stuff done. And I was like, oh, okay, fine. He was very busy. But this has a bunch of my other tips on how to use ChatGPT in particular in projects. That's still my favorite at the moment for a number of reasons. Any of you, have you seen this before? Okay, so I share this because I just want everyone to know the original. The original is this. It's made by a gentleman named Sam Ulwick at useronboard.com. A lot of people have taken it and done other stuff with it or whatever, but this is it. The reason I'm sharing this is our job. We got to give folks that use our product superpowers. Otherwise, what are we doing? Okay, so I truly believe this, which is you'll create the best products if you know more about customers than your competitors and you act on that knowledge. A side note on this about competitors that I like to share is that I really don't care about competitors. But if they come up in sales conversations, I have to pay attention to them, right? But more importantly, what I do care about competitors is what the customer thinks about their products. Because that matters to me, because I'm going after the same customer probably. So I just want to point out, like, there's been a lot of debates over time of care about your customers, don't care about or your competitors, don't obsess over them. No, I'm obsessed about the customer. And if the customer, if I can get an opinion for free with external information about how they think about a product in my category, why wouldn't I do that? A really good example of this, which kind of gets into sales, is when we were building Nira, the first thing we did was we found a competitor, or the competitor had a lot of features because in IT and security, they build like suites of products. And they had a one feature around file access or something similar to what we thought we were going to do. And so I took a PDF I found with like the Rockstar customers they have because it was public and they were doing some like thing with it, marketing. And it literally broke down who the customer was, the name of the person, their title, all the features they use, and what they think about the product. And this is not proprietary. They put this out there. So we took it, this was before AI, and I painstakingly organized it and put it into Airtable. And we used that to actually go get our first customers. One of the customers that we had started at 5 figures and ended up at 6 figures over 3 to 4 years, and they came from this process. So just want to share that as a tip. If you can learn about what people think about a category, a product, a market, why wouldn't you if you're going to build in it in this way? It's really cheap. Okay, so I like Twitter. I was super early on Twitter. I just wanted to share that like this is how you should start almost everything if you can, which is with the hypothesis that's very clear. At this time, I built the product before Buffer and those things that help you share tweets. At first, it started as a PHP script, and then we pivoted it into a SaaS product and eventually actually sold it to Buffer. But we started with this thesis because I was using Twitter a lot and wanted to grow my accounts. More importantly, though, I wanted to share my framework for doing this. There's a link at the bottom for it. This is timeless, completely timeless. You have to do these steps if you're going to find anything reasonable without luck, right? Luck is luck, so it is what it is. But outside of that, you need something where you have a hypothesis, you're finding a way to get people so you can talk about it, and then what you're trying to do is find the pattern of pain. So if you recall with FYI, the way we found the pattern of pain was a bunch of those interviews and realizing that a search box is not what people needed. If we built the search box, we wouldn't have the 60% retention. Jobs to be done, everyone loves it. Maybe, maybe not, whatever. I learned to love it a lot more because at Dropbox, it was really helpful that we had common language. So I think this gives you common language. But that means you have to explain the common language. And we even had our researchers do like decks about like customer user journeys and other things that were related so that everyone got the common language. Super awesome for that. But my favorite part, and this was back in the day at KissMetrics when we did all the jobs to be done for it at the time. So this is many years ago now, but it was super useful. But I wanted to share this, but more importantly, the simpler version, which is this, because basically what this is you basically interview people and you let them meander, because most people, when you talk to them, they can't give you a straight timeline like this of when they switch from one product to another. So this is called switch method interviews. It's part of the jobs to be done framework, and it's my favorite part. Because if you do these interviews, you're going to get incredible insights. So I'll give you an example. When we were running KissMetrics and we had the funnels, and there's someone in this room that probably experienced this, so this is cool. When I was talking to you, you basically said the result of what I'm about to say, which is this. When we did this, the first thought, what more can I do with Google Analytics? So that was like passive consideration, right? Event 1, I try to do a bunch of stuff. It's very complicated, or I don't understand, or my developers are pissed off or something. Okay, cool. So now it's active consideration. Event 2 is usually like, it can't do what I want. And then you're kind of in the game, right? So at KissMetrics, once we did this research, it gave us extreme justification to write about Google Analytics on our blog. And when we did some analysis, and we were getting like, at that time, like 10,000 signups a month, very good at that time for our product. What we learned when we did the analysis, even after, just to prove that this thesis works, is that people would hit our blog 7 times before they signed up. And if those 7 times, 5 or 6 of them were about Google Analytics, they're already primed for like, oh, I want people-based tracking, or I want this or that. I can't do that with Google. You can't do that with Google even today properly. So yeah, just wanted to share this because this, the big statement I would say, and this slide is perfect for that, is everything old is new again. So if you look at this, just like the product manager slide, and this is way older, nothing has changed. In fact, we do all of this. We have so many tools to help us do all of this. So what has changed? How fast we can go through the cycle. That's it. But the problem is it's uneven. We can code faster. So we got that covered somewhere here. Can we learn faster? Can we get more data? But if you think about what the Grant at Gamma said, he said, yeah, we can't, right? He explained how to do that. So that's why I say that is the bar. What they're doing at that company is the bar. What Ramp is doing is the bar. And Lean Startup is still relevant. I know a lot of people have their opinions about it. Lean, maybe it's a name, whatever, but like this, if you ask any of them at your company, like anyone who doesn't like Lean Startup, at your company, are you doing these things? They're going to say yes. So then what are we debating? So all I wanted to say is like these tactics are all relevant, more relevant than ever. And there's a lot more maturity, a lot more products, a lot more things going on. We should be doing more of this. Okay, so this is really about AI. And I posted this on LinkedIn, actually. I actually made it for this talk. And then I realized it would be a very boring talk if I went through this on the talk. So I made the deck and I posted it today. But basically, I've been talking to a lot of product teams more for fun. And there's like 38 slides in there. And there's a lot of like, and this is all based on research. Research meaning I talked to them. I did not put quotes from them or anything like that, but this is what happened, and I want to tell you the story really quickly. So I joined Crazy Egg CEO 4 months ago. Side note, one of the first things I did is, hey, we're shipping something big every month that's product hunt worthy. I don't care if we're 100 or number 1 on product hunt that day. We're shipping once a month, something big enough where we can put it there with the images and all that, and it's worth our time. So we shipped web analytics, we shipped surveys, pop-up surveys at Crazy Egg. The first month, we shipped web analytics the second month, and we shipped instant heat maps last month. And this month, we're not going to put it on Product Hunt for a number of reasons because we're going to charge for it, but we're shipping funnels. So we're doing funnels again. Because I looked around the products and the funnels out there kind of suck. We can do it better. We can do it again. But anyway, so that was my side note. But in those months, I have talked to, I don't know how many product teams. Like I don't actually have a number because some I took a lot of notes, some I didn't. And I've just been casually talking to folks. And so this is a result of all those convos. But the thing is, when I started those convos, I didn't think I was going to make anything out of it except just learn for myself. I had no idea of like, oh, this is interesting. Then I started in some of the meetings, I started sharing anecdotes from other ones anonymously and all that, and not quoted or who they were, because they won't share. Like you folks are not going to share dirt unless like I'm like, hey, I will not share this in any way where you're going to be called out, because there's a lot of dirt in there actually about how people are using AI and not. And so then I'm like, wait, I have all this. And I've been sharing the anecdote. So I asked a couple of the teams, hey, I'm going to make a deck. I just want to see if you're cool with me posting it. But more importantly, will you use it? And so it started with like, I think it was like 40 like hype versus reality slides, because that's what each of these slides are once you dig in. And then I got it down to 25 in here because those were the best ones based on what people said. But then they're like, we're using this to figure our stuff out. Like, where are we at on the hype and reality? Have we experienced this? How do we fix this? So then I turned it into a guide by adding a bunch of slides before and started sharing with them. And like, I got things back like that was transformative. We wish we understood this before. We didn't realize everyone else is dealing with this in the similar ways that we are, and all kinds of stuff. So basically what teams do is they'll go through, look at the 25, and like pick off ones that they think they're dealing with and then go figure out what to do. And in the thread, in the comments, people were asking me all kinds of things. So I gave a few more tips, but yeah, just wanted to share that because I didn't talk enough about AI, I don't think. Last but not least, I have a Delphi. I don't know if you folks know what Delphi is. I just got it, so this is fresh. Haven't shared it with anyone at all. And it's basically you can chat with my persona or whatever, and they built it out for me. I haven't like super doubled down on it yet or added more stuff, but they did a pretty decent job from what I could tell really quickly. So yeah, please check it out. Talk to me. I don't know. Tell me how it is. And that's what I got.
All right, awesome. Thanks, Hiten.
Yeah.
All right, and then now we'll open up to Q&A. The way it works is you have to have a mic so that we can catch it on the video. So if you have a question for Hiten, raise your hand. And who wants to see the things in the deck? I want to see them now. All right, who's got a question? There you go.
You talked about the deck. Is that publicly available or?
Yeah. So
Back to the bit. Is a bit.ly in the upper
yeah.
right?
Bit.ly in
I
upper right.
tried that URL. It
It
didn't.
didn't work?
Yeah.
I don't have internet.
I'll try.
It's on LinkedIn. If you go to my LinkedIn, it's one of my recent posts.
Got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'll pass it. Yeah, sure. Go for it. Yeah. You guys got a question? I'm going to try to try out the link real quick.
Yeah, I got your link karma on that one.
Oh, I know.
I'll fix it before we.
Go back. I'll check it. Let me
Yeah,
check it real
please
quick.
do. Yeah.
Okay. What is
Hey, Hiten. Nice
Hey.
meeting you. So I run a B2B SaaS product in a vertical industry. And I know I won't be the last, but right now I'm the last entrant in this space. There's fairly established competitors ahead of me. And I think, so obviously I use AI a lot in product development, right? When you have sort of, for lack of a better word, democratized or made it easy for everyone to build great products, obviously taste matters, right? All of that stuff matters. But how do you differentiate and stand out from a product perspective when it is so easy to build or copy, where basically is there just a common denominator? All products start looking, feeling the same, functioning the same? How do you stand out?
The reason I'm thinking about this is because I could say the pithy answer and it's not going to give you what you need. But to me, the answer is they can't copy your learnings. Like even today, like that FYI product, or not FYI, Nira, is, I think, 5 years old. No one's copied it. There's a number of reasons why that our market, it's a like point solution and stuff like that, sure. But no one's copied it. And that is the only way to do the thing that is done with APIs or shitty products. And you can't even do it because then you have to contact support. So they can't copy your learnings. So even if someone and I'll explain, like we have an infinite scroll. If you change 1 million items, do you think we can do them right away? No, we have like a activity, not even activity log. I forgot what we call it, action log. Literally, you can go in the tool and all those million, we give you the record of did it work? Did it not work? Why didn't it work? What was the error code? We even had to take Google's error codes and translate them. And for every product I built, I can give you this is why we built it. But I shouldn't say for every product built. DraftSend, I can't give you that. That Dugo thing for investors, yeah, I could kind of give you that, but we didn't want to work on it, but it wasn't a big idea, so to speak. Fruitcast, we totally screwed that one up. We probably didn't even talk to anyone to build it, right? So to me, the pithy line is they can't copy your learnings. They can copy your product, but your product is full of these learnings if you do it right. So what I would say is most people are not doing it right. Take the learnings and build the right product, right? And even with the heat maps were an invention on top of a core problem. It wasn't like we're going to build heat maps. It was like, we're going to do this overlay. And then some genius on the team, wasn't me, it was like, oh, can we color code? And then I'm like, night vision is actually what I said. It's like night vision, right? Green and dark. And then we got to the heat map, right? So I think that's the best answer I have. And that's a timeless answer. Even today, in the products I'm working on, when I do that, what I mean by do that is do the work, talk to, even with AI, I can get really far, but it's still not a person telling me their stories. I'm really good at using AI, not to be cocky about it in these use cases, because for 15 months at Dropbox, I had to use AI, and I was a product manager there, I was IC, and I wouldn't have done the job without that. Not just the work about work, but like I'm sure they're still using some of the massive Airtables and docs I made because I know how to use the tool to get there. But even myself, if back in the day, the interviews got me like 100% of the way there, today AI gets me 40, 50, and it makes the interviews better. And it makes it so I know who I should talk to versus just talking to everyone, or exactly the right way to frame a question. It actually does help me do that. But again, you said taste, you need that. You need to, I've been thinking about this and I've heard a bunch of terminology around this, but like, I do think one of the add-ons to what I will say is you need to know what good looks like. If you don't know what good looks like, then everything I said doesn't matter. But if you can figure out what good looks like or train yourself to figure it out, you're good. So on that note, like Shreyas's Product Sense course is probably the best thing on the market today if you're a product manager. Because yeah, it teaches you taste, but it really teaches you how to think about problems without data. I think that's really what it is. So now I can look at a bunch of products and I can probably rip it apart and I'll be right because I can simulate myself, my LLM, as Shreyas calls it, knows how to do that, right? And he teaches anyone how to do that. It's pretty cool. So hopefully that's not the pithy answer.
It's all the hard work you do beneath the surface.
Yeah, and I think you could get faster, but when you get, like, look at it this way. You know that FYI product I showed with the feed? Where have you seen an interface like that? And that's even older. That's like 8, 9 years old. I had a 60% flattened out retention curve on the product with it. Like
that was really cool. That was my
right?
first thought. That's
So and if you go back to that slide, like just look at why. Like every single thing in the interface was there for a very specific reason. And I can tell you the reason, right? Most products, it doesn't work like that. You can't look at them and be like, this is why that exists. In fact, you look at it and you're like, oh, I know why it exists, some committee. Or they're fighting over this, you folks know better than I do, like about that kind of stuff. So, good.
Yeah, my take on the thing about knowing what's good is another way of saying it is like you have to have some way to discriminate like good from better, from worse or not. Like if you just, it's kind of like color blindness. If you just look at a product and you can't do the things you were saying, then you're not at the level to assess and make those decisions. So
That's right. There's slop,
Yeah.
right?
So any tips about actually incentivizing your prospective users, especially in a B2B niche, to actually give you feedback and get those meetings and get those meetings?
Existing customers or not, or
very early stage, no existing customers.
shots on goal. It's not about incentives. So I'll give you the best example I have. So remember I told you about like the PDF and me putting in an Airtable and knowing all the titles and use cases that someone had? Well, we hit those people up and we just said, hey, you use this product. We're building something related to that. Would you like to talk to us? But they were publicly representing that other company and willing to write quotes and stuff about it. So if nothing else, if that didn't work, I would have asked them, hey, we'd love to talk to you about that product. Right? So the reason I say shots on goal is like, when you're trying to get interviews and stuff, my line is beg, borrow, lie, steal. Right? Because like you said, like I need that, right? But I don't like to use money usually. If I have to, I will. I actually prefer doing that with existing customers for some reason. It just seems to work better in some cases, but I have never found a founder who does that not succeed at doing it. I have found founders who don't really do it. They're not going to send 100 messages. They'll send 5 and be like, it didn't work. I'm like, send 100 or send 20, improve your message, right? Like, that's the best answer. There's a lot of other answers like go on Reddit and all that, but fundamentally, you're going out and finding them. That's the key. That's why I said find a way to pull them to you and all that kind of stuff. It's because you need to find a way to engage with them wherever they're at, or this strategy where you can dissect the situation they might be in. Because what we knew about that product, we didn't really know this before, but we had an intuition, is that that product, the feature we were building, or the product we were building is a feature in our product that is not very like well done. So as a result, when we hit up the people who use that feature or cared about it or seemed to care about it, they were more than willing to talk to us because they wanted a better way. And that was a product where you had to hit customer support when you selected 25,000 items and stuff like that.
We got a question from Zoom from Kevin. Kevin says, I'm a new PM. Do you have any book or course recommendations to learn how to interview users well? Any sage advice beyond the quote about knowing your users well?
Yeah, I actually have an entire guide on that. It's free, so there's no course.
Okay.
So I'll send that to you, Dan, and
Sure.
it'll come along with this.
Okay.
Basically, those interviews I'm talking about for FYI and all
Yeah.
that, we wrote about exactly how we did it, why we asked all those questions. In fact, I put that in an LLM recently for a new product I'm building. And it was uncanny how close it got us. So the last time I did that survey, it took us 4 hours to debate the questions. With this thing, 10 minutes, and I had a 90% good survey and all the stuff, the customer interviews and all that stuff. And we just fixed it up a little bit and we were done and ready to go.
Cool.
So you could put even that into LLM and figure it out.
The blog post or is it product habits?
I like Google Docs.
Okay, cool. There you go.
Yeah, I'll send it over.
Great, awesome, cool. All right, Kevin. So I'll send that out in the follow-up email. Yeah.
All right. Before I ask my question, got to ask, John Belushi fan?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. I need to know where you got the sweatshirt. That's awesome.
So this is actually Jack Butcher, an artist that makes, like, he's just one of the best artists out there, in my opinion. He has a brand called Visualize Value, and he has a bunch of sweatshirts like this. Even the Zerp one's his.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's awesome. All right. So my real question, clearly you're very focused on the kind of the problem space and the discovery side and whatnot. My question is, in your kind of research and talking to product folks and product practitioners, have you seen any shift more towards solutioning? Just because with AI, there's plenty of tools for the problem space and plenty of tools for the solutioning space, but the solutioning space seems to get the most attention. I mean, vibe coding alone, right? So I don't know if you're seeing a trend in that direction because there's so much gravity on that side of the IA scape.
I have a lot of reasons to believe why we're in a sorry state of product development today. I think one of the big reasons is companies had a lot of money. Tech companies had a lot of money. So there's a lot of product people that are not educated about how to do product. But if I talk to anyone educated, they'll be like, oh, I'm building that thing to get feedback. Okay, so you either build it and you get the feedback, or you go get feedback on the problems, like I would suggest, and then you build the thing. But then you get feedback. So all you're saying is, if you're not going to do the first thing, at least do your prototyping to get feedback. I don't prefer that because I'd rather point my prototype or whatever I'm building at something more accurate, like that MVP. That MVP we built for search was meant to learn whether a search box, because when we heard all the interviews, we're like, wait, they're not using a search box to find documents. How do we prove that? So we built the MVP to prove that. Today, we built it in 5 days. You could vibe code it. It would still take you like a day because it connects to the APIs online. It's probably going to hallucinate and do all kinds of garbage. So if it were me, I'd be like, no, I'll just do the 5 days and have the engineer do it. If they want to vibe code it or use it, fine. Then I can get it down to 2 or 3 days. But at that time, 5 days was fast. And we had like 30 people go through it. We told them, we want you to use it for a month and we're going to talk to you every week. And we talked to them and we learned no one wants to use it. And we definitively learned that. It wasn't just our tool, or it wasn't that it doesn't have historical this or anything like that. It was straight up, I don't use a search box to find documents, right? So yes, there is a trend, but I don't think that trend is healthy unless it includes ideally pre-learnings before the prototype, but hopefully the feedback loop, just like the gamma example. That's why I say the gamma example is a bar, right? But like if you look at that, the quality of the starting point from the gamma example, you'll come back to my conclusion, which is if we know the right problems to solve, this whole process will lead to a higher success rate. And that's what we should be aiming for. So I still go back to, yeah, this is great, but it's missing one step, step 0. What is the right problem to solve? Yeah.
And I like your thing. I would just say, so you're basically saying, hey, I'd rather do research before we prototype. The next best thing is let's build a prototype and get feedback afterwards.
Absolutely.
The next worst thing is let's build it, launch it, and get feedback. And then the next worst thing after that is let's build and launch it and we don't get feedback. There are companies doing that still today. They're just launching it and not getting feedback.
And that's
right?
my point about poor product
Right.
hygiene or management.
Totally
I
agree.
mean, they're doing that because there's quarterly cycles and someone's going to get
Sure.
promoted and ship it and we're good.
And to
right?
your point, if you're not facing hard economic pressure, the business can.
They can
have
consume
fat,
they can
have fat,
consume the
and they
waste,
can do
right?
that stuff.
Yeah,
can
that's
do
right.
that
They can
stuff.
consume the waste.
Which
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
It basically, yeah. So, and it's interesting. Yeah, it starts out with team member has an idea. Where did that idea come from?
That's right.
Hopefully, it came from discovery and insights and things, research and things like that. Right? Yeah. All right. Cool. Other questions? In the back. All right. Thank you, George. We'll get you on. Let's see on Zoom. Zoom, if you have a question, let me know.
I mean, this is actually why I really like your product, Casey. Like, I haven't seen the demo, but like the idea of it and all that
Right.
is very good. And I didn't have questions because you hit on like the workflow that we need. So just shout out.
So my question is, the prototyping has become faster, and I strongly believe that our industry has had a major problem because we were building a lot more already. Now the problem is potentially going to get worse because we're going to build a lot more, a lot faster.
Yeah.
Have you seen instances or tools and technologies that are helping us do the research part faster? AI specifically.
The amount of value I can get from ChatGPT and deep research. I mean, what I do is like, I wrote this, meta prompting is a thing. So in the doc, in the YouTube video, and I'll direct link that too for you folks, but I talk about like meta prompting. So what I do, and I do this daily, I probably have one running or is done now, which is I will have AI write I literally say it like this, whatever, a comprehensive deep research prompt about X, like XYZ. Then it'll give me this long prompt, right? I'll get compliments on the prompt from AIA. And then I'll shove it in ChatGPT and do the deep research button, answer the 2 or 3 questions that it always asks. Perplexity, on the other hand, you could shove it in, it'll just go do it. And it's much faster. Quality, we can debate, but honestly, because it's AI, I don't actually care. If I get it from ChatGPT, the same deep research prompt, Perplexity, and Claude, and then I shove it all back to ChatGPT, and then I have it do any of the stuff I want to do, I'm good. So in some ways, I want to answer your question and say, yeah, there should be tools. In other ways, I'm like, what are you waiting for? Like, we shouldn't wait for tools. We can do it. Yes, it might be a little more or whatever, but like, the secret to getting good outputs is context and frameworks, actually, which is a form of context. So I have I haven't written about this one, but I have a product project. I actually call it product briefs, because at one point I realized brief is a good word for AI. I don't know. If you use it enough, you find all your little quirks. Works for me. And it is amazing especially as the models get better, it is amazing at when I give it a thing, how comprehensive and accurate it is. It is amazing. And imagine that plus a bunch of deep research. Like, hey, give me the jobs to be done based on this research. Put it in this format. And literally, not a single word is inaccurate. But it's in a project. It has my frameworks. It even has sales frameworks in it, because I love those for product too. And it just gives me the outputs I want. So yeah, there will be tools. Like, we're building a bunch of stuff at Crazy Egg to help with some things related to websites and all that. But the problem is, any tool you choose, you're now trusting the people building the product to build a 10x better version than what ChatGPT does. The reason I haven't launched anything like that in any of my companies is because I'm not at 10x yet, but I know what 10x looks like, right? So yeah, my suggestion is use the crap out of what we have, because I've been able to get super far without any other things, and deep research does work. And then now you can do longer and thinking and all the good stuff, however fancy you want to get. But again, it goes back to taste and judgment, and do you know what good is, right? I know what good research looks like. Many of you probably do too. So then when you look at it, you know what you're looking at, right? So yeah, that's what I would suggest.
I think the key here that you're saying is getting good at using the tools we already have is really the investment we should all be making.
Yeah, it's
that's
like,
going to be key. Right?
it's like I used to be able to, I'm not an engineer, I fake it. I used to be able to out Google the engineers. Even with Stack Overflow, I would still out Google them when they had a problem, even the most obscure problem, because I knew how to use Google. Right now, obviously, it doesn't matter, which is awesome. But it's the same with ChatGPT. Just use the crap out of it. Figure out how to use it. I mean, there's enough of us talking about it, enough other people talking about it. I am still shocked at how good it is. But I know how to make it good. Like, absolutely blown away.
Cool. All right. All right. Be the last question here with a awesome holiday sweater.
Thank you. Awesome talk. Actually, one of the best here. So I've
Thank you.
been here 10 times or so. So, question: how do you see the idea of a human team changing with AI? Because historically, the team was often like, I'm an expert at A, he's an expert at C, she's an expert at D, and so on, and like all together because we're experts, so we can do some work. Now, like with this tool, it's like everyone's an expert. So what then the team is?
Okay, so this is a really good question, and I poked and prodded the question from the standpoint of what is the low-hanging fruit around what's replacing humans today? Like what are the areas, support, et cetera? And the conclusion I came to a while ago, and it's not novel at this point, is humans do tasks, right? Like tasks, like fine. Humans do stuff, okay? Whether it's good tasks or not, I got you. But they do stuff. AI can do some of that stuff. The problem today is most people are not viewing their human org chart and labor as a factory. Like Taylorism is what I'm thinking of, which is basically the idea that, you know, if you go to a factory where there's like an assembly line, there's always a second floor and a long window, right? Why? Because the people there who are the managers are looking over the people on the factory line. That's why it was set up like that. It's called Taylorism. You can look it up, right? If you now start thinking of an organization in the same way, I think it starts flipping the way you think about what you just asked. Because you're right, it's experts and this and that. But at the end of the day, if on a given day, I'm doing these 5 tasks, right? All I'm trying to figure out is how can I make it so AI is doing 4 of the 5? Which are the right ones it should be doing, right? But I still need my taste, my experience, whatever a human can do is usually like discernment and things like that. That's what we're going to be left with, is my opinion, right? And that's kind of the theme of what I'm saying about AI, right? So I'm just looking for tasks to be done. For example, the survey example. There were a number of tasks I would have to do to create a really good, not even survey, a really good customer interview script, because that's what we were talking about, right? Today, I can do that in 10 minutes because I already did it before and I have my guide or whatever, but I could take 5 customer interview scripts from the past or Google it and find them, shove it into AI. As long as I know they're good, it will produce output that's 90% good. That process would have taken so much longer, or did take so much longer, to create the original. So all you're trying to do is find all those kinds of opportunities where you've done stuff before and it took way longer. Like I can write PRD docs in 30 minutes, really good ones. But I'm not doing it by just typing in ChatGPT. I'm giving it old ones. I'm slapping something else on it, whatever, adding some frameworks, instructing it. I'm okay having a conversation to make it great. That's why I say 30 minutes, not 5 minutes, right? That's it. So to me, it's process improvement. But we need to understand what processes we're doing and what the tasks and things are in the processes. So yes, humans will be replaced, but the path to that looks more like this. And the best example I have today is customer support and the company Intercom. They have Intercom, which is a help desk, old school, so to speak, like Zendesk and all that. And then they have Fin, which is their AI product, separate brand. And there, I think they say like 99 cents for every resolution, right? And if you think about it, there are certain areas where we can do a full outcome-based product. And in other areas, like let's say generating an entire web page, that's good. We're not there yet. But support resolution, because of the amount of concrete like context you can shove in there, Intercom can say, I can give you for 99 cents a response as good as a human. So I think you just need to look at what area are you in and how much context, how much information, how much process and steps are required to get a great outcome. Because someone earlier asked me today, hey, where do you think SaaS is going? You know, because SaaS, system of record, all that. I'm like, well, it helped us do tasks like software. That's what software was. And AI is going to help us do tasks. But in the past, we couldn't get the software to get to an outcome. It was still like us going through steps. Now the AI will go through those steps for us. We just have to build the right tools in the right ways that make the outcomes viable. And there's some categories where we can do that today, like support. Code, we're getting there, I think, like probably more in some categories than others, but we will get there eventually. Like if you spend some time with the data labeling companies, you know what they'll tell you? For code, we're like 12 to 24 months away from enough of the code being labeled and trained on that all the non-edge case stuff should be really clean and not hallucinating and work for you, right? So whatever you're trying to improve, I would just start thinking of it more like that, of that transition, the tasks, and figuring out where to slip AI in properly. That's my thesis.
All right, great. Thanks a lot. Let's give a round of applause for Hiten.
Thank you.
For sharing your time with us.